I had no clue about running. Not in a million years did I ever think I would have a job or a career in sports. If you want to actually reach your peak performance, it's not about trying to push through the pain and how painful it's going to be. It's actually about how long could I make this feel relaxed?
If somebody's listening to this podcast, wherever they are in life, young, old, Jewish, not Jewish, if you had one message that was like, keep this message with you, keep it in your pocket for the rest of their life, what would that be?
Really just to remember that there never has been anyone just like you, and there never will be anyone in the future. You are a one-time phenomenon. You are unique. And if you were created so unique, then you're here with a very special mission. And remember that you have this unique facet of godliness inside of you that only you can shine into the world. And that's your mission here.
Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of The Proctor Effect. I just sat down with a really inspiring individual. Her name is Beatie Deutsch. People know her in the world as the Marathon Mother. She is a frum, religious Orthodox woman that lives here in Israel that is a professional runner. It is something that I've never seen before. And we basically broke down her story. We went through her experience of raising 4 kids and then deciding to pick up running when she was in her mid-20s and now basically training to become an Olympic athlete. And just, it's a phenomenal episode, a really cool story. So sit back, buckle your seatbelt. It's time to jump in my episode with me and Beatie Deutsch. Enjoy. Okay, we're ready to do it and I'm pumped up. Welcome, Beatie. Thank you for taking the time to be here right now. I know it's a hectic day, so thank you.
It's very nice when the podcast is in my backyard because I've gone to Tel Aviv and Beersheba and all over Israel, and this is right here. So thank you for opening up a podcast studio in Neve Shamir.
There you go. Now everyone knows the undisclosed location because every episode I start off, I'm like, we're live from the undisclosed location of the Moral Edge. So Neve Shamir, there you go.
Oh, I gave away the secrets.
Gave away the secret, but it's all good. I'm very excited for this conversation because obviously, you know, we've worked together a little bit in the past and I've followed your journey and it's amazing. And there's so many questions I have on your story, but for the people that might be listening to this that have no idea who you are, take me and the listeners through a little bit of a background. Who's Beatie Deutsch and how you get here to Israel? We'll start with that. The first few years of your life until you got to Israel.
So yeah, I'm Beatie. It's short for Beatrice. I am a mom of 5. I grew up in Passaic, New Jersey. Went to BJJ for seminary, decided I want to stay another year and dated my husband that year. I was actually introduced to him by my madricha from the year before, his sister, set us up. We got married, stayed in Israel and have been here since. And I am now a full-time professional marathon runner for Israel and the 6-time national marathon champion and currently training to represent Israel in a couple international championships.
That is wild. First of all, great summary of your entire life story in about 30 seconds.
In a nutshell, yeah.
In a nutshell. So, okay, I want to go back to the beginning. As you mentioned, you're from Passaic, New Jersey. So growing up in Passaic and then coming to a school you mentioned, which is BJJ. So for those that don't know, BJJ is a seminary. You come for a gap year in Israel and you study. So back then, right? Obviously now you're into running and you have your whole career, but like, do you ever think when you're in your early years, like, yeah, I want to live in Israel one day. Like I want to get into running. Like where was your head at back in your early years?
I knew I wanted to live in Israel from when I was in high school. My parents started coming for Shalosh Regalim when I was in 10th grade, like for the major holidays. And I really appreciated just life here. It felt so much more meaningful and that like people were just on a different plane and like knew what mattered in life. And that really resonated with me. And then I had no clue about running. Not in a million years did I ever think I would have a job or a career in sports. But if you asked me what my dream was as a high school girl, it was really just to share the beauty of Judaism with the world. And I was obsessed with, you know, bringing Jews closer to Torah. And just, I felt so passionate about everything I had as a religious girl and how meaningful like Torah life could be. And I just wanted to share that. And I think that running has given me that platform. So it's cool because I'm fulfilling my dream using all of the talents Hashem has given me.
It's honestly really special. And there's very few people in the world that could say that, you know, they're a professional athlete and they're an Orthodox Jew, and then they could use that as a platform to really inspire people. And I'm curious of, I know we spoke before this podcast of just some of the things that you've been through in the past. And when you got married, you and your husband actually left Israel to go do that. Kiruv, Shlichut, explain a little bit of that journey. I find it fascinating. So talk about that a little bit if you can.
Yeah, so we were living in Beitar, which is like a very religious Torah-focused community. And my husband was studying in yeshiva. And I was actually working for a foundation that funded college students who are coming to learn in Israel, who didn't grow up religious and then were coming. And I used to read their monthly letters every week. They'd have to write in like a little summary of their experience in Israel. And it was so inspiring to me because I was like, wow, they're coming from zero background and they're just loving learning. And then the coolest part would be when like I'd read like a girl's letters for 6 months and a guy's letters, and then they would tell me they got engaged. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was just reading both of your letters. And then it wasn't that, it was that now they were building a home in, for the Jewish people. And like, I would think about the thousands of generations of Torah observant Jews that were coming out of this couple. And I was like, hey, we have to help bring more Jews to Israel. Like we have to help get more Jews connected to Torah. So I told my husband, I want to go live on a college campus. And he was a little bit like, are you sure that's crazy? Like, I don't really want to do this. But then I kind of told him, I convinced him that he could also get a master's in social work at the same time, which he did. And we went to Tucson, Arizona. And I don't think in the history of Beitar Kollel, Rav Yaakov Friedman's Kollel, has there ever been any other couple that went to Tucson, Arizona. We were the first and the last. And it was 2 years of tremendous work, but also really meaningful work. And so many relationships that we've made that I still keep up with today. And so many students that are living in Israel and building beautiful Jewish families, including some in Ramat Beit Shemesh.
There you go. It's crazy because, as you mentioned, like for those that don't know, Beitar is a very religious area in Israel. Call it that. And to go to America and to do kiruv and shlichut and to inspire people. Like when you were there, was it hard that like, okay, we're leaving Israel. We know we're coming for a mission. Did you ever have thoughts of staying and not coming back to Israel? Like, what was that like for you?
When we left Beitar, we like put all our belongings in storage because we were like, we want to make sure we come back. And I don't think I ever was pulled to America and staying in America. But when we came back the second time, like I was, 6 months pregnant with our fourth kid. It was August in Har Nof and didn't have a car. And I'm like, oh, now I see why it's hard for people to make Aliyah. Like I had gotten used to the minivan and Target and air conditioning. And like suddenly I landed in this apartment, no air conditioning. I have like 3 little kids and just like hard. But I was so grateful to be back in Israel because when you live in a place like Tucson, it really is a desert in terms of Judaism. And you have to take care of everything for yourself. And it was so nice to come to Har Nof, and I made such good friends and have such a beautiful community. And my kids have so many neighbors and people to spend time with all the time and such good role models. So right away, it was, easy to get back into it.
Wow. I'm first of all, going through that and moving to Har Nof, which is in Jerusalem. There's a lot of hills, a lot of mountains, and you're pregnant in the heat. Not easy. Take me through now. When did you get into running? Because obviously that's a pivotal thing in your life and that's what people know you for. But as you mentioned, you were in Arizona, then you moved back to Israel and you already had 3 kids expecting your fourth.
Yeah.
So when did that become relevant in your life?
So I wasn't running at all for the first 6 years of my marriage. I always say I was like running after my kids to get them in bed. And I was really in survival mode because like 4 kids, 6 years, hosting 100 college students for Shabbos every week, or, it was just a lot. And then after my 4th son was born, I started just feeling really out of shape and really like almost disconnected from myself because I had loved sports growing up and I'm very high energy and I'm very active. And I wanted to get back to that, but I almost like I was like overwhelmed by the thought of committing to something. And like every day, you say, I'm going to sign up for the gym tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But even signing up for the gym was really scary because first of all, it was like extra money that I didn't necessarily have. And you have to show up at the class on time. Like to get to a class at 8:15 in the morning means you got everyone out smoothly to their gon and you cleaned up the house and you ran and made it to the class. Like that was way more stressful. And my husband would be like, okay, so what do you want to do? And finally, my breaking point was when like we were just hanging out on the beach with our whole family and we ran like 100-meter sprint. And I used to always be the fastest one. And I come in dead last. And it's like literally such a short distance, but I'm huffing and puffing.
Wow.
And I felt so far from like the person I used to be that I said to my husband after that, and I don't know where I got the idea, but I was like, that's it. I'm running a marathon. And every time I say this story and I ask the audience, I'll be like, okay, what would your response be if I said that to you? And I could ask you that. Like, I just told you I could barely run 100 meters, and now I told you I'm running a marathon.
I would laugh. I'd be like, you're
Literally.
no chance.
Exactly. And the greatest blessing is that my husband didn't laugh. He was like, okay, you want to do it? Like, let's make it happen. And I feel he's always been he's such an incredibly supportive part of my journey. And I think from the beginning, just having that belief in me allowed me to do something so crazy,
Honestly, shout out to your husband, because the
Massive
fact
shout out
that,
to my husband.
hopefully he watches this one, but the fact that somebody who's willing to look and say, you got this, especially at that point where, like, as I just said, you're crazy for even trying that. So take me through that. Once you decided, like, you know what, I'm going to start going in that direction. I'm going to start running. I'm going to get in shape. What did that look like? Obviously, beginnings are hard, right? So, like, how long did it take you? And then how long did you give yourself to run for that first marathon? And then what happened from there?
Yeah. So one thing I would say is, like, why did I choose a marathon? Because I wanted a goal that was so scary, it was going to force me to get out the door and train. Because anything else wouldn't have really motivated me to the same level. And a lot of times people ask, like, how do you stay motivated? And I always say, motivation isn't a feeling, it's a commitment to a goal or vision you have for yourself. And once I decided on the marathon, I was 100% bought in and committed. And then I just Googled 4-month training plans for marathon. Now, my story is also like a bit of an exception. Like, you shouldn't necessarily go from 0 to marathon in 4 months. And I didn't, clearly thank God my body's strong and I have a talent for running. But I didn't even really know that. I just Googled basic training plan. And my husband actually helped me fill out the marathon training, the marathon form. It was for Tel Aviv 2016, which is coming up this week. So I always get emotional this time. And it asks you, what's your estimated finish time? And I said, don't put down any finish time. Like, please, if I finish in 5 hours, it'll be a miracle. And he was like, come on, 4.5. I was like, no. He said, fine, 4:40. Now, if you do the math, that's like around 10 minutes per mile, a little bit slower even. But I said, I couldn't believe running 26 miles was enough for me, right? And we start training. My thing was I need to go out and run 4 times a week. And that was like manageable because I did Monday and Wednesday afternoons. My husband was able to come home a little early. And then Friday morning, I did my long run. And Motzei Shabbos, we started running together. Me and my husband had a weekly date night run, which I say is the best date night.
Who's faster, by the way? I have to ask that.
My husband is no longer faster than me. But at that point, he was faster. I don't think he would beat me in any distance except a 100-meter sprint. So yeah, but we still do our weekly Motzei Shabbos date night. So literally 3 months into this training, I'm enjoying it. I would say that I personally loved running from day one. I know that's not the case for everyone, but for me, it was like breathing. Like, I hadn't breathed for 6 years, and then suddenly I was breathing again. Like, it changed me. I feel like I was a more patient mom every time I go out for a run because I got out all that energy and just, I could be present with my kids. I wasn't like, I'm so stuck in the house all day, Mm-hmm. And then a month before the race, my husband was like, he comes up with this crazy idea. He says, you don't want to just finish the marathon. You want to know you got the best possible time you could. And I already told him a million times. I told you all I care about is finishing. And he told me to go out and run a half marathon time trial and see what I could do in half the distance. And then plug it into an online race predictor, which will tell you what you should be capable of in the full marathon. And that way I would know what my target goal should be. I was very skeptical because I was in survival mode, not dreaming big mode. But I went to Gan Soccer in a local park in Yerushalayim, run 13 laps around the park, which it comes out to about a half marathon, got to my car, and I realized I'd finished in 1 hour and 41 minutes.
Wow.
And now my husband told me that the race predictor says I could run the marathon in 3.5 hours, which I said to him he was absolutely nuts. And there's no way I was doing that because really, if you know anything about running, and this is just a tip for any runner, anyone listening, the number one mistake amateur runners make is starting out too fast. Mm-hmm. And everyone warns you before you do a marathon about the wall. And all I'm scared about is hitting mile 20 and not being able to take another step. But my husband was like, listen, you can start out a little bit slower and get progressively faster every mile. And he was so dedicated. He bought me a running watch. He programmed it. It was a used running watch at the time. My first time I have a watch. And he said, this is your plan. I remember standing at that start line of the race, literally butterflies in my stomach. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to do this. This was 10 years to the day, coming up in a week. It's Tel Aviv.
Wow.
And I start the race and my eyes are just glued to my watch. And I'm flying along with people. Like I have no idea what I'm doing, but I see that I'm feeling pretty good. I can't believe it. Like 13 miles just fly by. And in the second half of the marathon, my watch started beeping because I was running even faster than I needed to. And the last 5 miles of that race, I was passing pretty much everyone on the course. My kids were there with signs cheering me on. And my husband ran the last 5 miles with me. And I crossed the finish line in 3 hours and 27 minutes. Which for me was the most empowering moment to just realize that this distance that I never thought I could run in my life. And 4 months before, I didn't think I could finish in 5 hours. I ran in 3:27. And people think that was the moment I discovered that I'm good at running or that I could go to the Olympics. It wasn't the moment that I discovered I could be a professional athlete, but it was the moment I discovered that if you're willing to take risks and do hard things, you will discover that you have so much more strength inside of you than you realize. And it all opened me up to this journey of going after huge goals that I never would have imagined possible.
That is so inspiring. It's crazy because as you mentioned before, like a lot of people, when you start out as an amateur, like one of the biggest things that people struggle with, and I know exactly what that feeling is, you start off too fast and then you just burn out. And then keeping that consistency up for 26 miles is not easy. So after going through that first experience and realizing like, oh my gosh, like I could run a marathon in, 3 hours and 27 minutes, like no chance I could do that right now. Even if I train, probably can't. But what happened after that? Was it like, were people coming over and you'd be like, you could do something with this? Like what was going on then?
No, because even though it was like a good, and I qualified for Boston, it's not like an elite level time, but
the Boston Marathon?
Yeah, but even after that race, I remember thinking in my head, like, do you think I'll ever be able to run a sub 3 hour marathon? Now, my PR currently is 2:31. Like I had no idea what I was actually going to end up doing, but I actually ended up, the following year I was pregnant with my 5th child. So I did run the Tel Aviv Marathon 7 months pregnant.
Okay, I'm cutting you off. Yeah. Talk about that. How in the world do you do that? And were doctors telling you like you're crazy? Like, did you like, explain that what happened?
My father's an OB, so he really gave me his blessing because he said if it's not new to your body, then it's fine. No doctor in Israel would really sign off on it, but I exercise during pregnancy is super helpful and it's really good. And today there's a lot more knowledge, and I think doctors today would be more encouraging about it. This was in 2017. And yeah, the main reason I did it was because I knew how good I felt running and I wanted to keep that up during my pregnancy. And I also knew I need a goal to like get me out the door. Cause like you have a million good reasons when you're pregnant and tired at the end of the day, not to go and run. But like having this marathon on my calendar made sure that 4 times a week I got out the door and ran. And it was the best thing I did because, when I gave birth to my 5th child, I always say it was like my best labor, my best delivery, in the delivery room, I said, I'm ready to run another marathon. Like I ran till the day I gave birth. So
you're kidding me.
No, I kept it up. It just felt really, I think that for me, the message I always say to other women and mothers especially is everyone benefits when you take care of yourself physically and mentally. And exercise is so important, not just for your physical health, but also for your mental well-being. People don't even realize, how many mental health issues could be resolved just by getting out the door and exercising. So I'm a big advocate as moms to make that time, and that we deserve it and that our families deserve it.
1000%. And it's like sports is that outlet for people, and this becoming your outlet, I'm sure, like obviously this changed the course of your life. So take me through kind of what happens next. So you ran a marathon 7 months pregnant. When did it like really begin to take off of like setting higher goals? As you just said, your PR is 2:31, which that's even crazier. I thought 3:20. I was like 3:27 is pretty good, but 2:31 is even crazier.
Well, so the following year I won the Jerusalem Marathon. I was the fastest Israeli woman, but again, Jerusalem is like it's a big marathon, but it's not the most serious race in Israel, and I ran a 3:09, so it was a decent time, but it wasn't like I'm making it to the Olympics, but I did get a message from a friend who really encouraged me to join a training group and get more serious. Because until that point, I hadn't really had a coach or anything. And in 2019, I won my first national title. It was literally an incredible, miraculous race, I would say. I ran at 2:42. And I cut 6 minutes off my time in the second half of the race. It was honestly just a very incredible story. And that is when I got my first call from the Israeli Olympic team, invited me to, be part of the Israeli delegation. And I set my sights on Tokyo. Now, I thought I had qualified at the time because the previous standard was 2:45 and I had just run 2:42. But it turns out that for 2020, which is the Olympics I was aiming for in Tokyo, they made the qualification standard a lot more difficult. And they said they cut the field in half from 160 to only 80 women. And then they said the time was going from 2:45 to 2:29:30, over 15 minutes faster. If you think 2:45 is fast, it's fast. But 2:29:30 means running a 5:40-minute mile or like a 3:32-minute kilometer for 42 kilometers, right? It's like pretty insane. And honestly, my husband, who's been my biggest supporter, like when he heard that, he was like, come on, Beatie, like who are you fooling? Like you're not going to run that in your life. And I had to agree with him. I was like, you're probably right. But if Hashem brought me this far, he could bring me that far. Because I always have believed that it's not me, it's a gift from Hashem. And it's just, and everything we have in life is that way. We're given talents. It's up to us to do as much as we can to develop them. But at the end of the day, the outcomes are really not in our hands,
Wow. I have to cut you off for a second because I want you to talk about that experience a little more. Because like you have that goal, you get 2:42, and then it's like, oh, like I probably could do this in the Olympics. And then did you start training or when did you find out that you couldn't qualify for Tokyo?
Well, I didn't say couldn't because my coach actually and I decided that we were going to take a different route because they expected only 50% of the women to get in with that guaranteed time. And the rest would be going by the ranking system, which basically says we'll take 80 women limited to 3 per country. Otherwise, it would just be Kenyans and Ethiopians. And you get a certain number of points depending on where you place in races, like higher level races, if you run a major. And, so my coach and I mapped out a whole plan. I was going to run 2 races, get a certain number of points and come out ranked 80. So right before Corona hit, I was ranked number 76. I was in the world, wow. Limited to 3 per country. I had run a 2:36 in Cape Town and I came in 7th place. So that gave me a certain number of points. And then I won the national championship in a 2:32 and I got 45 points for winning. And I was in a good position. But at the same time, they moved the date of the women's marathon from Sunday, which it has always been on a Sunday, to Shabbos in Tokyo. So I pretty much knew that I'm not going to actually be able to compete in the games because I don't run on Shabbos. And but it was like this pivotal moment. And then the COVID comes, the Olympics get postponed, the whole ranking system starts again. And I thought I had a chance of trying to ask them to once they're rescheduling the Olympics, could they just move the marathon to Sunday again? But didn't work out. I never hit the guaranteed standard time. And so the Tokyo 2020 Olympics did not happen, both because of Shabbos and because I didn't officially, qualify. Talk
about that for a second. I know, as you just said, Shabbos is your no-brainer. I'm not running. But as somebody in, that's wanted to keep doing more, as a religious Jew, do you feel like it limits you or do you feel like, how do you feel about the fact that you can't run on Shabbos and this is where you're trying to go?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I really look at it as an opportunity because if my whole journey is just simply a pathway to bring more of Hashem's light into the world, and then this is the greatest stage to do it, to say, I'm this close to competing on the Olympics, which is something people dream about their entire life, but Shabbos is more important to me. And at the same time, I also understand that many people really don't get what Shabbos is about and think that I'm copping out, right? And, it's like, well, you could just find a rabbi who will tell you it's okay. Or why, there are many Israelis athletes that do compete on Shabbos, or why is it why is it a problem to run? And so I never try to force my perspective on anyone else. I just want to be able to demonstrate that staying true to your values and what's most authentic to who you are is possible, even at the highest level of athletics, and encourage people to do that in whatever field they're pursuing.
It's so interesting to say that because I'm thinking about back when you ran in the marathon, the year that I was working for an organization, Just Chesed, there was, I forgot where I saw the picture, but it was from Orthodox woman with a head covering and a skirt running the marathon, something like that, right? And that went around everywhere. talking about, carrying Hashem's light and representing the Jewish people. Like, what was that like for you? Like, obviously you could have been like, oh no, like I'll dress like everybody else. And, and I'm sure it came with a lot of public attention. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny because people say, I'm such an example of tznius. Now, tznius is a midah, right? That literally means modesty. But then sometimes people will say, well, how are you so comfortable being so public and in the limelight? And, it's not okay for a religious woman to be so public. So it's a constant balancing act. And I think that for me, I choose to really try and embody the character trait of modesty in everything I do. And modesty is understanding that everything we have is from Hashem and giving credit to the source and realizing that nothing is, we can't claim credit for anything we do, really, And so as an athlete, you're constantly straddling that line because you work really hard. Like no one is just, showing up and having results. Like there is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that you put in. And it's very easy to say like, oh, I worked so hard, so that's why I achieved this. And my mindset constantly is like, I worked hard and Hashem allowed me to do this. Hashem gave me this gift and I want to, bring it out to the fullest. But I think dressing modestly just keeps me in check in that way. And I think that when you're always giving credit to Hashem, then it's not about being in the limelight. It's just about bringing more of Hashem's light to the world,
I'm thinking though that like dressing that way, obviously that's something that you prioritize, but does that ever slow your time down at all? Like, does that make it harder to run?
Yeah, I think in a marathon, it's probably between close to 2 minutes of time that I'm losing because you're running so long and like the more heat that you can, give off, the more efficient you'll be. But like, I'm definitely not quite as efficient as I could be. I don't think about it though, because if you're always thinking about the things that are like your disadvantages, so you're going to have a negative mindset and you're going to feel already at a disadvantage. And I look at it as my superpower. It's like I have this special like protection every time I come to a race and I'm in God's hands and he's carrying me to the finish line.
Wow. It's honestly inspiring. And if you think about it though, you said it would probably shave off around 2 minutes. From time for PR is 2:31. If anybody doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's close to but I'm gonna run a sub 2:30 even in my modest clothes. Like, it's that's my attitude.
I want you to touch on that right now. Like as you mentioned before, that was 10 years ago when you started running.
Yeah.
And now it's about the 10-year anniversary. Where are you still pursuing right now? Like as you just said, you're trying to hit that goal. So talk about what you're kind of currently doing.
That's such a good question because I've been thinking about it a lot. Like, because I haven't run a new personal best in 4 years. That was in 2022, I ran 2:31:34 in the Seville Marathon. And the crazy thing is that I was actually devastated because I had been trying to hit the 2:29:30 time. And in the last 7 kilometers, just the marathon takes its toll. And I couldn't quite hang on to that pace. It's really hard. And I remember, and it was only a personal best by 2 seconds. So I felt crushed that like I had really not improved. And my coach, and just that I hadn't hit that goal. And I couldn't get over it. Like I remember my coach said to me, he's like, a personal best is always a personal best. So you should be proud. And he said, there's going to come a time when you stop running personal bests. So enjoy it now. Mm-hmm. And I honestly couldn't hear it. And it's so chilling to me because it's 4 years and due to a variety of factors and a couple injuries that I went through, and I haven't improved. And I don't believe that that I'll stop improving. Like I still believe that my best days are ahead of me, but it's sometimes really hard because, I've been training now, thank God, for 2 years healthy, but I don't feel like since this really big, I had a big tendinopathy injury and that like knocked me out for a year, 2024. And then, so it's been, a solid 1.5 2 years of training, but I don't feel like I'm in the same shape I'm in. And I had to work very hard to just release this like constant comparison of me to my former self or me chasing a time. And I think that it's like, it's at the end of the day, I said like, I just had this like moment yesterday. I'm like, it's all ego, and if Hashem, he gave it to me then and he took it away from me now. And this is exactly where I need to be. And no one likes, like, it's a lot more fun to be improving all the time and to have these flashy races that look good. And now people will look at what I'm doing now and be like, what, you just won the Yam HaMelech and you just won the the Tveria Marathon, it's true. I had like some nice wins, but in the scheme of like elite running, those times are not significant. And, you know, for the frum world, I'm the fastest woman, but I'm in the elite marathon world and I have really big aspirations. And it was just like this reality check of like, if your whole journey always has been to be a role model and bring Hashem's light into the world, then like this is exactly what he wants you to be doing now. Can you show up and be that light even in the hard moments, even when things are not working out the way you wanted, even when, you know, you feel like an imposter some days and you're not progressing and you don't know, and still going in like I'm 36 and I think I really do have some good years ahead of me. And I'm giving it my all because I'm so curious about my potential and I just don't want to ever regret that I didn't, you know, take it to the fullest. And it might not look like, you know, Olympics because they announced the 2028 Olympics are also, the women's marathon is on Shabbos.
Wow.
And realistically, like the standard's really difficult. So I don't know yet about
What's the standard for that one?
I don't even know. But like in, let's say the 2024 Olympics, it was 2:26:50. So it's not getting slower, it's getting faster. But at the same time, like I don't know. I have really big dreams to like do ultras and like even longer races, like 100Ks. And like, I think I could be even more competitive in longer distance. That's like my jam.
Wow.
The longer I go, the better I feel. And I'm just taking it, you know, one day at a time and trying to keep improving, keep having fun, and keep seeing where I can be a positive role model for women, for religious people, for humans, you know?
The craziest thing that I'm thinking about is like this whole process of marathons, there's so much that goes into it for people that could tell.
So much.
And then also on top of that, you have 5 children, thank God. How in the world do you balance all that?
It's so funny because I would always get asked that question and I thought it was like, just like a silly question. Like, you know, of course I should be able to balance it. Like I'm not working like them, you know, but because I kind of like minimized how much work marathon training is. And because it shouldn't technically take so much time because you can't run all day, right?
Right.
But then it does add up because just like running 160 kilometers or 100 miles a week, which is what you're doing when you're like training at a high level, plus 2 to 3 gym sessions, plus the recovery, plus body work that you need to do to stay healthy. It takes up so much time. And then in the free time that I have when my kids aren't home, I'm either making, you know, grocery shopping, taking someone to a doctor's appointment, cleaning out my house, or just like laying on the couch because I'm so tired I can't move. And then everyone comes home at 3:30. And the biggest thing that's hard for me is getting enough sleep. That has been my battle throughout because athletes need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. And tell me another from mom that's getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep. So
unless their husband's Superman and your husband's definitely he's there.
He's awesome, but yeah, he also works full time, so you know it's a balancing act. And most athletes they live very. They will say it's almost a selfish pursuit. Everything in their life revolves around them improving as an athlete and their sleep and their recovery and their training, and that's not necessarily my setup. I try to optimize my situation as best as I can because I want to improve and I want to compete and I want to represent Israel and I want to get to my highest potential. But I also, it's of more priority to me to be a mom for my family. Always.
I think it's so inspiring, by the way, for anybody that's listening to this, that's like, that might complain about like juggling kids and juggling a job. Like
I don't compare. I think every mother is running a marathon every day. Like
so true.
From moms are super women. They're superheroes. We juggle so much between just like every week we're making Thanksgiving, right? Like, and the whole world goes crazy. We're making Shabbos every week. So that's enough said.
And you're filming a podcast and you're running overtime and you still got to pick up your kids from school. There you go. That's currently happening right now. But I'm curious, as you were saying before, like, you know, going through the process sometimes, like it could be a little bit of ego, but then you could have so many different factors that are like contributing to this whole journey that you're on, right? And I know that when we were discussing a few days ago, there was a period of time where I think you said they're filming a documentary with you for I think 4 years, getting ready for the Olympics. And you said that was a little bit of a harder time because you kind of like lost the love for running a little bit. Could you talk about that experience, kind of what you went through?
Well, over the course of the 4.5 years, you know, I was in totally tunnel vision on trying to qualify and run this time of 2:29:30. And I don't think, I necessarily saw how obsessed I was. But then when you look at the documentary, it's this that's the amazing thing about having had this video, movie produced about that time in my life, because I got something unique that most of us don't get. We're all going to go to Shemayim, to heaven, after 120 years and watch the video of our life. But then it's too late. But I saw this video. I was like, and to have that reflection and realize, like, I lost sight of what it's really about. And in getting so obsessed with an outcome and a time and almost equating my self-worth with that just accomplishment versus like being able to really be in the moment and appreciate the journey and the process. And that's really hard to do. And it has taken so much letting go and working on my personality, because I'm naturally a type A control freak. That's how I've been as successful as I've been. But to understand, like, at the end of the day, I'm worthy no matter what my times are. And those times, like, your outcomes are things that you can't really control. They're in Hashem's hands. And all you can ask of yourself is, like, did you do the best you really could? And to be able to really give myself grace, like, that's hard, because like I said, like, I want to be successful. We all want to be successful. And I think the biggest realization is, like, being able to say, I still have that deep, deep desire to, achieve huge things and to represent Israel and to hit these really big goals, but they don't define me. Like, my self-worth is not tied to that. I'm not clenching the outcome. I'm just going through my life, setting it up and living in alignment with those desires. And when Hashem wants it to happen, it will happen, How do
you get to that point though? Because it's like obviously easier said than done, but like when you're really in it and like you're so invested, and this is like your life at the end of the day, like you're putting in all this effort for this one big goal, like where do you think that comes from to be able to get to that perspective? And what advice, honestly, would you have for anybody that's struggling with understanding all that?
It doesn't come in one moment. It's years of self-work and internalizing, like, this message. And Rabbi Kellerman, my Rav and mentor, like, really helped me. And there's a piece in the documentary where I go to him and he said to me, have everyone around you tell you your times don't matter. Your times don't matter. And, even at the end of the documentary, I thought I was there, but the truth is I wasn't really there, because right after I ran the last race there, I then went on I set my sights on Paris 2024. And I was so, focused on that goal. I ended up developing a pretty intense disordered eating situation, just like trying to cut weight for the race. And like, I was still like not in the most healthy mindset. And so then getting injured again, Hashem had to remind me, and it's like I think when you start to look at what is the theme of your life, like what messages are Hashem trying to send you with every experience you have, and you are willing to be radically honest with yourself and know when it's ego and when it's your soul, like you can get to the deepest place of understanding that you need to be to then do what I'm saying of hold those two things that seem so contradictory, right? Like having the deep desire for the goal and feeling like you don't need it to be whole.
What's crazy? I'm thinking about this because obviously, and my perspective is probably like a typical non-runner, which is like when you say all these numbers and all these goals and everything you're reaching for, it's like, okay, 231's your PR. If you try to hit that 229, and like all I'm thinking about is like, it's like 2 minutes. Can't you run like a little extra faster? Like talk about that. How often does that happen to you? And what really goes into like a marathon? Like in the moment, talk about that a little bit.
It's so crazy. People say like, why do you actually care so much about the seconds? And like, how does it matter so much? And it's like those seconds, in those moments, you can't even imagine what it feels like, but every part of your body is screaming to give up. And it feels so hard, and you are using every fiber of your being to will yourself to keep moving forward. And every second matters because every second really is the choices we make in our life every day where we want to quit, we want to give up, we want to scream at our kids, we want to, and we don't have, and then we rise above. And I think that marathons are a lot harder than people realize because it's an exact pace that you can hold for a crazy long time. And if you start out slightly too fast, you will not be able to hold it till the end. And that's where the seconds come in that you lose. And those 2 minutes are like cutting 2 minutes off your time when you're already very close to your potential is tremendous. It's huge. People, people work for years in sprinting. It's quarter of a second. So,
Explain. So I want to get more into like the nitty gritty of it. Cause like for somebody that doesn't know, like obviously there's certain aspects from this episode that people are understanding now of what really goes into marathon training. But when you're actually in the marathon, when it starts out, for someone like you that's a seasoned runner that's been doing this for so long, do you run in the beginning and you're like, oh, like I'm just, taking a jog? Like, does it, at what point does it get hard?
It feels like a jog in the beginning.
Really?
It should. If it doesn't feel really comfortable in the beginning, you're not doing it right because it's long. So I wouldn't say like, you shouldn't be wasting energy talking to people, but you could talk. The first half of the marathon has to feel really smooth and really comfortable. When does it get really hard? So then you have like in the second half, I would divide it into thirds. So the first third of the second half is still okay. Second third is like when you have to dig deep and like really hold on to the pace. And then the last third, you are just grinding. Every part of your body's so exhausted. You're going to use every fiber of your being to get to the finish. Like it's hard.
When you get to that point of like exhaustion, do you ever look at your watch and be like, okay, if I just put a little more, maybe I'll get there? Or is it like, let me just keep the same pace the whole time? Like where does that go?
Well, it depends on how the race is going. If your race is going poorly and you're losing time, I would not look at your watch because it's going to be really depressing to you. So this happened to me a few times, like in the Seville race where I knew you can't look at it because all you want to be focusing on is like one foot in front of the other. Just get there, get to the finish line. If you're having a really good race, like the first time I won the national championship, I looked at my watch and I could see that I was actually running faster than I needed to. And it was motivating to me, like how much faster could I go? And how much, quicker could I actually finish this race in? So it really just depends on how the race is playing out, whether you want to look at your watch or not. But there are actually some elite athletes that don't even run with a watch because they want to be so in tune. They want to be off feel and they just want to be in the race. And if you're racing, especially like if you're, competing and you're, focused on who you're competing against, then you don't necessarily need to care about the time.
It's interesting. You talk about elite level athletes. And as you mentioned before, like a lot of these successful people from the countries in the world that are runners are from like Kenya or South Africa or whatever. And I know you took a trip to Kenya to go training. And I was actually following that along and I saw the process of keeping Shabbos and training with these people. Talk about that. Like there's a lot that goes into training, obviously, but even experiences like that, what was that experience like you and what made you say like, I'm just going to go to, Kenya for a few weeks and be by myself?
Yeah. So most elite athletes, they structure their training around these like 6 to 8 week periods at altitude. The reason you train at high altitude is because there's less oxygen up there. So your body is forced to adapt. And then when you come back down to sea level, you're kind of like supercharged. So you could run faster. So obviously as a mom, I'm not really leaving my kids for 8 weeks. And I rarely have the chance to do altitude training. But if you go for 3 weeks, minimum 3 weeks, you will get the benefit. So I decided I had a big race and Kenya is the center of where like the top athletes in the world train in Eton, Kenya. There's nothing going on there. There's no distractions. It's like a third world country, literally.
Wow.
And going there as a religious, woman was definitely interesting. I remember the first day running, like they couldn't get over that I was running in a skirt. Lady in the skirt, like everywhere I went. And it is a very Christian country. So like when I explained why I wear a skirt and I said like, I'm the daughter of a king and I'm a princess, I want to dress dignified, and they loved it. They like asked me to speak to the athletes. They're so friendly and so down to earth. And there's so much you could learn from the Kenyan people. Just the simplicity of life and just how, motivated and committed they are to keep showing up every day and taking risks and putting in a lot of hard work, it's very inspiring. And it allows you to, it's kind of like going to like a yeshiva and just intense study. There's no distractions. You're on this train, eat, sleep, repeat schedule and everything, and the cool thing also is like, you can have pacers. You can find any Kenyan guy in the black who runs the exact pace you want for your workout. So like, You're like, okay, tomorrow I need to do 15 kilometers, 3:30. Here's my man. He takes me, he does it. You just follow his feet and it's great.
Do a lot of them run barefoot, by the way? I feel like I've seen videos like that.
Maybe the kids run barefoot. When they're kids, they run barefoot. Yes, and I don't know about the barefoot, but the kids do run to school. They run long distances to and from school, like either walking or running part of the way. And you'll be on your run, and the kids will start running alongside you to like just have fun.
What was it like keeping Shabbos? I know I saw videos of, I think there was Chabad there, if not.
No
Chabad,
Chabad,
nothing.
No, I brought all my food. I brought a few pots and pans. You know, Shabbos is Shabbos is what you make of it wherever you go. That's a beautiful thing about it. It's like, I need Shabbos because I need one day to just totally disconnect and reset and not move. Just sat in my bed and read and davened and made my own. I made kiddush for all the athletes Friday night, and they enjoyed it. And I made them, like, I cooked Shabbat food and they loved it.
So you were the only Jew. You went yourself?
Yeah, I was the only one. Yeah.
I want to end off now, actually, with a question that I'm going to phrase to you. And this could be related to anything that we discussed today, or it could be a generic piece of advice that if somebody's listening to this podcast, wherever they are in life, young, old, Jewish, not Jewish, if you had one message that was like, keep this message with you, keep it in your pocket for the rest of the life, what would that be? Putting you on the spot here.
Well, really just to remember that there never has been anyone just like you, and there never will be anyone in the future. You are a one-time phenomenon. You are unique. And if you were created so unique, then you're here with a very special mission. And remember that, you have this unique facet of godliness inside of you that only you can shine into the world. And that's your mission here.
Wow, that was short and simple, but honestly practical and inspirational, because at the end of the day, somebody has to just understand that we're all here for a mission. We're all here to do something in the world. And, you know, what's so inspiring about your story, you know, people could see is that, like, even after 26 years in this world and having a bunch of children, you found that light for yourself and now you're carrying it going. So
exactly. And it's never too late, because, you know, sometimes you could be 80 and still not yet have reached the depths of your potential or discovering what you have to offer to the world.
1,000%. The question I'm going to throw out to you is, for somebody that listened to this episode, obviously they saw your journey of, for 26 years, you weren't necessarily professionally running. And then you got into it and it was a gradual process. So for somebody that's here right now listening to this, that's like, you know what, I'm super lazy. I've been contemplating, I need to either go to the gym, start running, but we'll talk specifically running in this situation. What's your pitch to get somebody into it?
Number one, you don't have to contemplate it. Just do it. It's the type of thing, don't overthink. The best part about running is that it literally requires nothing except a pair of shoes. It's free. You can do it on your own time. You could do it with a friend. You could do it by yourself. You can do it anywhere in the world. And you will always come back feeling better, because the endorphins are real. Running produces the most endorphins, best bang for your buck, everyone will tell you. It's freedom, it's energy, it's tapping into strengths you didn't know existed, and it will take you to places you never could have imagined. So I say go for it, because you literally have nothing to lose.
I'm actually going to ask a follow-up on that one, because I feel like, even for me, I'll say this practically, it's like, if I've ever thought about running, it's like, oh, like, it takes time to build up a stamina. So what, I'm going to be the loser that goes outside, runs down the roads, huffing and puffing, and then comes back home? Like, talk about, like, how do you mentally just prepare yourself to build up that stamina when you can't just run outside and go 5 miles?
Biggest mistake people make is they start out at a pace that's too fast for them to hold. You build up stamina by going slowly. If you start out thinking not like how fast can I run, but how long can I go for? And can I keep a conversation going the entire time? Then you'll actually be able to sustain it. It will feel good. You'll enjoy it. And literally that's what I did when I used to run my long runs. The first time I started running, I would run 11-minute miles and talk to my cousin on the phone while pushing my son in the stroller. And I enjoyed it because it was relaxing. So it's not about running fast in the beginning. It's just about running at a conversational pace. That's key.
Wow. You know, I'm actually thinking, as a follow-up, I'm curious about David Goggins. I've seen his videos. I know he's a big runner. And you, as a runner, what's your thought on him?
So everyone's really into David Goggins, and I feel like he kind of has it wrong, because he's all about pain for the sake of pain. And you got to push through, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to hurt, and it's all about how much pain you could endure. And I feel like if you want to actually reach your peak performance, it's not about trying to push through the pain and how painful it's going to be. It's actually about, how long could I make this feel relaxed? How relaxed could I feel for how long? How can I enjoy it? How can I get my body in this state of flow? How can I look around at everything I'm experiencing and make it feel easy? And if you're constantly trying to, like, make it hurt and go harder and be as hard as it can, like, you won't really be able to tap into your, greatest breakthroughs. Like the best performances are when you're in that state of flow. So I think that he emphasizes too much pain for the sake of pain. And yes, in Judaism, we value discomfort. Like you only grow by putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, but not that it's all about pain for the sake of pain.
So true. And so my last question, and then I'll let you go, is that when you talk about pain, not for the sake of pain, but generally when you run, you get like runner's high, and people talk about the benefit of feeling after you run. When you have that pain in a race, what's like that thing that pushes you past it? Is it like, when I get home, I'm going to feel so good? Like what, like how do you keep going in those times?
Oh my gosh, literally it was so crazy. I just ran a 10K race and it wasn't really supposed to be a real race. The week before I won the 50K, and my coach really wanted me to take a total reset break. And then my daughter was running the race, so I said, I'll run the 10K anyways. And it was so wild. At the end of the 10K, my legs were so cramped up because I had this crazy like shoulder issue. I couldn't really breathe so well. So it was 10 times harder than the 50K was at all. And 50K is 5 times the distance of the 10K. At the end of the 50K, I was like breezing through the finish line, And here it was, I'm like struggling. I never in my life did this. I stopped twice in the last kilometer of a 10K. 500 meters to the finish line, I stopped. Full on stopped. And then I was like, okay, you can't stop. Like, what are you showing to other people that like you just don't, you quit? And then I realized like even if I walked to the finish line, I would still come in third, which was also a crazy thought. But I think in those really hard moments, what you're thinking of is like, how are you going to be proud of yourself? Do you have more to give? Can you get a little bit more out? Can you squeeze a little harder? And it's just knowing that the pain is only temporary, but the moment, the choosing, the expanding of self, being willing to work for something hard, that's what you came for. That's
100%. And just your story overall like was super informative and inspirational. So just thank you so much for taking the time, and hoping to have you back again soon. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's episode. I am so excited to see you guys back next week. And if you want to see more, don't forget to check out and subscribe to The Moral Edge. Go to themoralledge.com. We'll see you guys soon. Enjoy.